In today's video, I'm going to be arranging with 5 Arum lilies and some gorgeous foliages. This one is ideal for beginners, and if it's something you would like to learn, keep watching today's tutorial. So welcome back. Now in today's video I'm going to be arranging with these gorgeous Arum lilies. I've had a couple of questions sent to me where people are struggling to be able to arrange with Arum lilies in floral foam. So I'm going to do a set of 3 videos where I start off with a really simple arrangement with just the 5 flowers in it. And then in the second video, I add some more flowers to make it more elaborate. And then in the third video, I add some extra flowers in to make it even grander. So you get to learn how you can start with an arrangement and then you can build on it to make the design more impressive or more stylish. Now I am arranging with floral foam today, and I think sometimes the more simple designs that have structure still need to use floral foam. You could use the Arum or the more sustainable Fiber Flora from Oasis, but I'm going to go ahead with the floral foam because I know that many of you are still using it. It's still a very popular mechanic, but if you're trying to use something more sustainable, then this video might not be for you. And what I'm going to do is insert it into the container so that it's flush and level with the edge of my container. So a simple arrangement with a minimal selection of flowers really needs to have the foam below the edge of the container. So always remember that any design that has horizontal placements needs to have the foam above the edge of the container. If you're trying to do something that looks more stylized, a bit more cutting edge, more contemporary in its styling, then keep your foam lower than the container. So when you're creating traditional designs, we tend to work on the center line. But today, to give it a more contemporary feel, I'm going to start off center and make more of an asymmetric design. And these sticks that I've got here are bamboo canes. These have come from a neighbour's garden, and I'm just going to create a little bit of height. And if you're new to floral design, then you want to go at least twice the height. So that would be 1, that would be 2. You can go taller if you want, but generally we don't go shorter. The taller we go with an arrangement, the more elegant it tends to be. If it's shorter and squatter, you tend to see the container more than the flowers. So good proportional balance is normally twice the height of the container. There are exceptions to the rule, and there are occasions when we go wider, but for today we're going nice and tall, and I've gone off center. So if you think about this line here as the center of my foam, I've come to what is my left hand side. And when you look at it from the front, you'll see that I've just got that sort of column effect there with the bamboo canes. But what I've done is I've removed the foliage off the side. So we've got these very straight lines, and they're going to create almost like that parallel column effect on one side. And they're straight in that parallel fashion. I'm not bending them out in that radial placement. And that's my first placement to create the height. Alongside it, in the right-hand side of the floral foam, I'm going to use my fantastic Arum lilies. And I think one of the difficulties with the Arum lily is when you're conditioning them. They don't like to be placed in very deep water. Too deeper water tends to cause the bottom of the stems to rot, and then they're really hard to work with. And the other little trick is to always cut them straight. Now, we're always encouraged as florists and flower arrangers to cut our flowers at an angle to get into the foam. If you do that with a soft stem flower like an Arum lily, you lose the strength at the bottom of the stem. So the best way is to cut them straight across. And I'm going to come a little shorter than the height of my bamboo, as straight as I possibly can, and I'm going to work the yellow Arum lily down to the base here, creating a really simplistic floral design. And this really is just a version of the line arrangements that I've done many times on the channel. I quite often use carnation or a rose or a gerbera, but you can do exactly the same thing with an Arum lily. Ideally what you're looking to do is to start at the top with a smaller arum and bring the bigger one down towards the bottom, because that creates a much more rhythmic design. Your eye starts small and it comes down to the bottom. But mine are all fairly similar in size. I think that one is going to be the smaller one. And if we look again at where the centre line is, I'm arranging in this half of the floral foam, which is the right part of the foam. I'm not crossing that centre line, so I've got a really clear distinction between the two sides of the arrangement. And its natural shape is to slightly curve out. That's okay. I don't dislike that. And if you haven't got a knife like I'm using, then try and use a really good pair of secateurs. We don't want to squash the base of this flower because that will inhibit the water uptake. What you can do, a little trick if you're working with a soft stem flower, is to use the stem end just to place or create a little hole there in the floral foam, and that will help you find a guide or a hole to put your arum lily in, and you don't have to damage the stem end while you're pushing it in. So I've stepped each flower down. Now, because this is a bit more of a modern design, I'm not going to come really far forward at the bottom to create some dimension at the front. I'm going to keep this in a more parallel style with my final flower coming slightly forward. Maybe not as much as we would do with that traditional style of arranging, but I've got that really clear column, really identifiable on the right hand side of my floral foam, and they're stepped down really gently to give that nice bit of rhythmic movement. And then my final one is going to be cut short towards the front. Now, as a teacher who teaches workshops here and studio sessions all the time, I do a lot of training with new florists, classes for hobby-based flower arrangers. One of the problems that many of them do is that they cut the stem way too long, and they're trying to force 3 or 4 inches into the floral foam because they think that the stems need to be really close into the foam. An inch or so into the foam is adequate. What you've got to consider is if too many stems go into that foam, it's going to completely disintegrate. Think about all the stems coming in from different directions, how they're going to hit one another. There's not going to be enough water for all those stems to hydrate themselves. So be really mindful of how thick that stem is. We don't need to go all the way down to the bottom of the floral foam, but what we do need to do is to keep this hydrated so your foam doesn't dry out. So always add in some water either at the beginning or when you finished the design. So you can see a really lovely straight column of flowers. The obvious position now is for me to come this side because we have that lovely bouncing effect of the flowers either side of a centre line. The gap is fairly similar between them, and I think I'm going to cut this even shorter so it can sit here just towards the front. And essentially that's the start of any flower arrangement where you need to learn that vertical line. You don't have to do this in a vertical placement, you could do this horizontally as well, but it always works particularly well for beginners if you've got a simple bunch of flowers, all of the same colour and all of the same variety. Now, as a traditional arranger, you would be inclined to reinforce this back section here with a large piece of greenery. It's the first thing everybody tends to do when they come and do a session here in the studio. But that, I think, applies more when you're doing those geometric shapes like triangles and round shapes. I want to leave this quite clear at the back and really accentuate and highlight that arum lily. If I over clutter now with a large piece of greenery at the back, I'm losing the line I've created with my bamboo, and I'm almost taking your eye away from those really impressive flowers. So for today, I'm going to ditch that one and just stick to foliage lower down at the base to cover my floral foam. And to do that, I've got 3 different types of greenery. You can use all the same if you prefer, but I like to use something that's got some different shape and different texture to it. So I've got some flat leaves that you'll regularly see me use. These are Fatsia or Aralia, depending on what part of the world you're in. Then I've got a little bit of Bergenia leaf or elephant ear, which is more of a garden foliage here in the UK, but the colour is slightly different, so it's going to give me a nice contrast. And then I contemplated using the back side of the Magnolia leaf to introduce a little bit of brown, but I changed my mind because I didn't think there was anything else linking that brown colour to the arrangement. So I'm going to use this on the opposite side. We get a slightly different shaped leaf and a contrasting colour and texture, and I'm going to group them together so that we have a really interesting set of foliage in the arrangement. Now, if you're a traditional arranger, you might really struggle with this concept because it has lots of gaps in there, and you will come along and you maybe want to come along with lots of greenery and add it in. But it's a really good start for beginners if you're in a part of the world where flowers are particularly expensive, or the weather is too warm for you to arrange on a regular basis because the flowers don't last, then this is a great one to learn. Round flat leaves work better than fussy greeneries like pittosporum and eucalyptus, because you're getting that nice bold look that complements the arum lily so well. And because there's a bit of flexibility in my Bergenia leaf, I can almost mould it down to the front of the container. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to place in my Aralia or my Fatsia leaves. And I'm not necessarily trying to create a balanced design. It doesn't matter if one side is larger than the other. And I might even get away with just one Aralia leaf, which is even better if you're limited to the choice of foliage that you can get hold of. And if we look from the overhead camera, if I get it in that sort of position there, you can still see a lot of foam towards the centre. I'm going to use really short pieces of the conifer at the base because it's going to cover really well, but without overfilling and making the design too cluttered. But you could use moss in there. It could be a large hydrangea if you've got flowers in the garden. But before I fill in on the bottom, I'm going to introduce some bear grass. Now, if you're a florist from the sort of 80s and 90s, you will recognise bear grass because we used it all the time. We don't see it quite so much nowadays. But what I'm going to do is on the side where the bear grass is, I'm going to place in a large chunk of the bear grass towards the back. It takes a little bit of patience to work all the stem ends in. And then I'm going to take this and weave it round to create some loops. Now there's one there that's a bit too short and it's springing out of my nice curved set of bear grass, but I can cut that off in a minute. And what I'm going to do here on the bottom is where I think all the stems are meeting. Let's just get that in the right position. I'm going to use a wire wrapped around the bottom so that I can hold it into position. And you might have seen by the expression on my face, I could have sworn I put wires on the table in front of me, but they've disappeared. So we're going to have to go and find some wires. But that introduces a lovely bit of enclosed space on one side of the arrangement. And when I found my wires, I might come back and do a second group as well. So I'm back. I've got absolutely no idea where that original set of wires have gone. But what I'm going to do is use a florist grade wire. This is a 56. And I'm going to wrap it around the stem ends here, and then twist them and insert that back into the foam. Before I do that, we'll just chop the ends off, make it a bit neater, and that's going to swing back round into the front of the arrangement. And that shorter, wispier bit I'm going to remove because it's spoiling that nice curve that I've created. And I think I'm going to create one a little bit lower down. I don't think this is a particularly new trend. If you've been arranging flowers for a while, you'll be really familiar with it. If you have pampas grass in the garden, then you can do this method with pampas grass as well. Just be very careful because the pampas grass can be very sharp on the end. You could also do it with lily grass or steel grass. You might have flexi grass available to you. Medellino canes if you've still got some in your store cupboard. But with just two placements set off to one side, it introduces a little bit of drama and some excitement to the floral design. And I think I'm going to add just a few soft wispy bits here at the top. Just take a bit of time to line them up in your hand. If the ends have become particularly dry, just remove them. And I'm going to create a little bit of softness just alongside where those bamboo branches are. And that will give just a nice softer element to the top of the floral design. Bit of soft movement, drawing your eye down towards that lovely curved piece of grass. And then with my nice lime green conifer, I'm going to cut some really short pieces right down low to cover my floral foam. And because the texture on this is very different to the flat foliage that I've used so far, it's going to give a really nice contrast. But because I've cut it short, it's not going to mess up the centre part and make the design really messy and fussy. So a few little bits on either side of that arum lily there at the front is really going to help cover. And I've just realised that those missing wires from the very beginning are right by my side, so you might have spotted them in the overhead camera right at the very beginning. So at the back, we've still got that back section of foam to cover, and I can do that quite successfully with some more of the conifer. Again, this could be moss, could be some shorter, fatter leaves at the base, but that's all I need there to cover the back of the design, and I have quite a modern and striking design with just 5 flowers. You could easily replace that with a nice vibrant rose, a gerbera, a carnation, and you're going to get the same effect. And if you come back for the next video, which will be available in a few weeks' time, I'm going to add a really nice orchid there at the back and some contrasting colours to create step 2 for this floral design. So if you've enjoyed, then I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the channel, because that's really important for other people to find us. You can hit that notification bell if you want to be told when the next video is released, and add a comment in the box below to let me know what you think of this design. And does that little tip of cutting the arum lily straight and not storing it in too deep a water really help you with arranging with a flower that you might be able to grow in your garden? So thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.